Why did Brazil actually hire Carlo Ancelotti? Was it tactical? Was it political? Or was it just to keep Vinny happy? Let's find out. Welcome to another episode of TAMFC, where we break down football developments holistically and inform the opinions of football fans and ultimately make it easy for viewers to digest. So, the Brazilian national team has dropped off in the last few years. Their last Copa America win being 2019 and their last World Cup win being 2002. Some say it's because they've lost their Joga Bonito identity. Others say it's because they've got too many EPL players in the squad. And others say it's because they've fallen behind developmentally in terms of producing world-class talent. So, after a disappointing 2024 and a rocky start till 2025, the Brazilian Football Federation, or CBF, hired Carlo Ancelotti as Brazil men's national team head coach. A weird move to some, because Carlo Ancelotti does not exactly play Joga Bonito, the Brazilian style football that has made Brazil famous throughout the last 50 years. What is Joga Bonito? Well, it's the style of football that has defined Brazil for the last few decades. Fast, exciting, flair, skillful, and generally just a style of play that the fans get excited to watch. Nevertheless, Ancelotti will be the first foreign coach to take Brazil to a World Cup. And listen, all football fans should be familiar with Carlo Ancelotti. He's a very, very successful and experienced football coach. He's won literally every major European football competition and cup, coaching the likes of AC Milan, Juventus, Chelsea, PSG, Bayern Munich, even Everton, and of course Real Madrid. He's known as a serial winner, especially in knockout competitions, as his record suggests. But here is where things start to get interesting. So let's take a deep dive into Carlo Ancelotti. So as we previously mentioned, Carlo Ancelotti is not a Joga Bonito type coach. He's a very pragmatic type coach, in fact. He tends to play a more simpler and more pragmatic style of football. Ultimately, he's not a systems coach. If you think of the likes of Guardiola, Klopp, Alonso, and even Michael Arteta, these are the type of coaches who will put the tactics before the individuals and the philosophy of the team first. And as he mentioned in the OB1 podcast, Ancelotti is the type of coach who sets up his team according to the players that he has. This is exactly what he did during his last stint at Real Madrid, where he set up a team to accommodate the star players, such as the Benzemas, Toni Kroos, Vinny Jr., and so on. And let's be honest, Brazil does have its fair share of star individual players. Ultimately, Ancelotti's style of football is very basic, organized and very rigid on defense, adaptable depending on the players he has at his disposal. However, he does allow attacking freedom to players once they're on attack in the opponent's final third. But if you ask him his style of play, he'll simply say that he doesn't have one.
You know, we talk about Pep Guardiola and tiki-taka. We talk Jurgen Klopp, heavy metal football. What's the Carlo Ancelotti way of playing football?
I don't have a way. I don't want to keep. I want to give to my team the knowledge to do, because there are some aspects in the game. First, the two most important part: when you don't have the ball, you have to defend. When you have the ball, you have to attack. It's quite simple. I want to give more information to my players defensively.
Yeah.
Because defensively is only a matter of concentration, sacrifice, spirit, team spirit, and that's it. With the ball, it's completely different. The ball, you have to consider the creativity of the player. That is really important in attacking football. So I give a lot of information defensively.
He prefers to play and adapt the style of play to the strength and the characteristics of the squad. But do keep in mind that Brazil did actually play Joga Bonito at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar under then coach Chiche. They were very exciting and ultimately scored lots of goals, but they got knocked out in the quarterfinals by Croatia on penalties. And that's probably because they had Richarlison up front. I digress, I'm sorry. Now, some of the reasons why Ancelotti was such a popular pick for the CBF includes: one, he's very familiar with a lot of senior Brazilian star footballers, having previously worked with the likes of Casemiro, Vinicius Jr., Eder Militao, Rodrigo, and he's worked with plenty of other Brazilians throughout his coaching career. Also, Brazil was seriously struggling during the CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers, finishing 5th overall and narrowly finishing above Paraguay. And to add insult to injury, they also got knocked out of the quarterfinals of the Copa America in 2024. One of Ancelotti's most defining traits is his man management. Don Carlo is one of the best man managers in the football world.
And of course, the relationship is really important. The most important part of my job is not the strategy, it's the relationship.
He knows exactly how to handle superstars and all the problems and baggage that they bring. He's excellent at creating a team out of a bunch of individuals. And if you look at Brazil, they're still pretty littered with a lot of high caliber superstar players, including the likes of Casemiro, Rafinha, Vinicius Jr., Marquinhos, Gabriel, Alisson. Now pause right there. If you're following along, you'll notice that there's one specific player I have not mentioned yet. But before we go there, there's one thing I have to mention first. Let me explain. So let me take you back till 2024. Brazil and the CBF extends its sponsorship deal with Nike until 2038. A death row deal, as the kids call it nowadays. Some of the key details from this sponsorship is that this new deal entitles the Brazilian Football Federation, the CBF, royalties from shirt sales of the Brazilian football teams for the men's and women's national teams. So keep that in mind. Now fast forward till May 2026. Brazil and Ancelotti announced the final squad for the 2026 World Cup. And guess who makes it? None other than 34-year-old star talisman Neymar Jr., to the surprise of many. Now, what you need to know about Neymar Jr. is that he's been one of the best players in the world of football during the last 15 years. He's still the world's most expensive player, and some would go as far as to say he's probably the third best attacker behind Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. He's Brazil's all-time top scorer with 79 goals, and he's still doing pretty well in Brazil's Serie A. But, and it's a big but, Neymar has been extremely injury prone over the last few years, with his last cap for Brazil coming in October 2023. However, if there's two things that Neymar doesn't miss, it's a World Cup or his sister's birthday. Now, because he's so injury prone and basically made of glass, he won't do much off the ball, basically rendering the team to 10 men on defense. Nevertheless, he is still world class and brings massive popularity to the Brazilian national team. Not only in Brazil, but also internationally, being one of the most followed footballers and sportsmen on Instagram. And he has an absolute cult fan base in Brazil, creating an absolute frenzy once he got selected for the 2026 Brazilian World Cup squad. Now, I'm not saying it is necessarily, but it does make you wonder if Neymar's selection and Ancelotti's appointment could have an economic element behind it, especially by the CBF, because if Brazil and Neymar do well in this World Cup, the Neymar and Brazilian merch could be flying off the shelves. As we previously mentioned, the Brazilian Football Federation, the CBF, does get royalties from sales of Brazil merch and shirt sales. When it comes to Neymar and Brazil, there comes the question of practicality. Can Neymar fit into this Brazilian squad given that they've already got attackers such as Vini Jr., Rafinha, Igor Thiago, Cunha, Lucas Paquetá, Endrick, and Ryan? Can he realistically fit into the squad? And how do you make these attackers or a combination of these attackers gel? So overall, Neymar's selection, just like Ancelotti's appointment, was a massive gamble. Not like a Lucas Paquetá type gamble, like a risk and reward type gamble. Anyway, I digress. Now, best believe that the criticism has been pouring in from many fans in and outside of Brazil, with a multitude of fans bemoaning that this team is playing boring and not a typical Brazilian style. And at times, some fans have even admitted to missing Joga Bonito. But let's be honest here. If you're trying to understand why the CBF appointed such a coach that is all about winning and not about the typical Brazilian style of play or identity, then let this explain it to you. Keep in mind that the Brazilian football fans and the ultras are extremely passionate. For example, in August 2025, the Santos Ultras literally pulled up to Santos football team at their training grounds, demanding and threatening that the players get their act together and start winning matches. And the funny thing is, this type of behavior from fans and ultras is actually quite normal in Brazilian football. Google torcida organizada if you don't believe me. And listen, I don't in any way condone this type of behavior, but I hope I'm not giving any ideas to Manchester United, Chelsea, and even Kaizer Chiefs fans. Anyways, I digress. So you can understand the CBF's desperation in hiring a manager with a proven track record of winning, even if that means that it comes at the expense of the team's national playing identity. But let's be honest here. Should Brazil win the 2026 World Cup with or without its usual flair and creativity, I'm sure that almost all of that criticism will be right out the window. And so far as the group stages of the 2026 World Cup has come to an end, Brazil have finished top of their group, as expected, with big wins coming over Scotland and Haiti, with Neymar coming off the bench for a quick cameo versus Scotland, looking half fit. However, they did labor to a very difficult draw versus Morocco, where they were actually dominated by Morocco in many phases during the game and looked kind of flat going forward. Either way, they'll face world football's favorite dark horse for the 2026 World Cup, Japan, in the round of the last 32. And this will not be an easy match by any stretch of the imagination. The good news is, though, is that key players in the Brazilian team are starting to find form. Especially Vini Jr., who's been scoring a few goals, Bruno Guimaraes, who's been running the midfield, Marquinhos and Gabriel, who've been absolutely solid at the back, Alisson, who's been steady as usual, and Cunha, who's been banging in and assisting in a few goals. So we'll have to wait and see how far they go in this World Cup and how well they do. Let me hear from you in the comments section. How far do you expect Brazil to go in the 2026 World Cup? And was it the right decision for them to appoint Carlo Ancelotti as the head coach? Thank you for watching another episode of TAMFC, where we break down football developments holistically and inform the opinions of football fans while ultimately making it easy for viewers to digest.